Upon your return home, Your Majesties, I know that you will convey the Australian people's well wishes to the Princess.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, where the dance between crowns and commonwealths never fails to fascinate. Today's story is one of those rare moments when politics, monarchy, and human resilience collide in a way that feels almost cinematic. A moment that has left diplomats astonished, royal enthusiasts buzzing, and commentators scrambling to keep up. The stage? The hallowed halls of Australia's Parliament, usually home to heated debates about domestic issues like healthcare, taxes, or trade. But on one unforgettable day in September 2025, those chambers became the setting for an announcement so bold, so forward-thinking, it felt less like a policy speech and more like the climax of a blockbuster. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese rose to the podium and delivered an offer of cooperation to the United Kingdom so sweeping and unexpected, it took even seasoned diplomats by surprise. An offer that didn't just strengthen military ties, but reached into mental health, climate action, and cultural exchange. And here's the twist. The spark behind this monumental gesture was not a seasoned diplomat, not a policy strategist, but a royal. Princess Catherine of Wales. Her quiet influence, her personal journey through hardship, and her empathy had played a key role in transforming whispers into headlines, and headlines into history. But before we dive into how Catherine's influence helped turn a treaty into a transformative alliance, take a second to hit that like button if you're as hooked as I am. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next ripple in royal history. Now, let's rewind. It's mid-September 2025. The world is still catching its breath after a summer filled with tense summits, frayed alliances, and high-stakes negotiations. For the United Kingdom, post-Brexit diplomacy has been a constant balancing act. New bridges were being built, old ones repaired, and some strained almost to breaking. The country found itself at a crossroads, wanting to maintain its global influence, but needing reliable allies to do so. Enter Australia, a nation often described as the sun-kissed powerhouse of the Pacific, fiercely independent, yet bound to the UK by history, culture, and the monarchy. The relationship has always been a balancing act, sometimes warm and collaborative, sometimes cautious and complicated. By early 2025, tensions had flared. Trade disagreements and questions over Pacific security had put pressure on the alliance. Analysts expected small, careful steps forward, nothing dramatic. But what unfolded in Canberra that September was anything but cautious. To truly understand the magnitude of what happened, we have to dig into the roots of UK-Australia ties. After Brexit, Britain needed new partnerships, and Australia, with its vast resources and strategic Indo-Pacific location, was a natural fit. In 2021, the AUKUS Pact was announced, a trilateral defense partnership linking the UK, the US, and Australia. It was ambitious: nuclear-powered submarines, cutting-edge technology sharing, and long-term defense commitments. Jobs were created, security was strengthened, and alliances deepened. But by 2025, cracks appeared. Whispers in Canberra hinted that Australia might be leaning towards greater independence, even flirting with Republican sentiments that had bubbled for decades. King Charles himself visited Australia in October 2024, carefully walking the tightrope. His words were filled with affection, but he also acknowledged Australia's right to decide its future, even hinting at the possibility of becoming a republic. It was a graceful performance, but the mood on the ground was mixed. The crowds were warm, but polls showed Australians divided, proud of their shared history, yet eager to carve out a more independent identity. Fast forward to July 2025, when the Geelong Treaty expanded AUKUS. It was hailed as a milestone: defense commitments, clean energy collaborations, and jobs for both nations. But experts dismissed it as evolutionary, not revolutionary. Then came September 18th, 2025. On that day, the Australian Parliament gathered for what was expected to be a routine update on foreign policy. The cameras were rolling, news outlets tuned in, and analysts braced for a technical speech about trade numbers and security details. But instead, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese delivered something that felt like a pure diplomatic poetry. He announced an unprecedented cooperation package with United Kingdom, valued at more than £15 billion. This wasn't just about submarines and steel. This was about joint environmental restoration projects, cultural exchanges blending indigenous Australian knowledge with British heritage, and, most strikingly, mental health initiatives designed to help young people across both nations. The chamber erupted in applause. Opposition leaders nodded in rare unity, and in London, diplomats were stunned. As one Foreign Office source told The Times, this isn't just cooperation, it's a lifeline. It redefines what Commonwealth means in the 21st century. But perhaps the most surprising part of the Prime Minister's speech was his tribute. He credited a conversation with a figure whose voice carried more weight than any treaty could, Princess Catherine. How did Catherine become such a pivotal figure in a moment of international diplomacy? The answer lies in her extraordinary year, a journey that began with personal hardship and transformed into global influence. In early 2024, the world watched as news broke of Catherine's abdominal surgery, followed by the devastating revelation of a cancer diagnosis. It was a trial that stripped away the royal gloss and showed the world her human side, her vulnerability, her courage, and her strength. Through months of treatment and preventative chemotherapy, she stepped back from public duties. Yet when she returned in 2025, it wasn't with fanfare, it was with purpose. Her first major public appearance at Trooping the Color in June drew tears from onlookers, not because of the ceremony, but because of the resilience written across her smile. Behind the scenes, Catherine was preparing. Insiders revealed she spent late nights poring over policy briefs, not for show, but for substance. Every word, every appearance carefully measured. By the time she re-emerged fully in the summer of 2025, she wasn't just a royal figurehead, she was a force of empathy and influence. Catherine's connection to Australia wasn't random. Her work on early childhood development and mental health through the Royal Foundation echoed Australia's own national priorities, especially after bushfires and floods left deep scars on young families. In August 2025, she joined virtual roundtables with Australian experts, discussing trauma-informed care and youth resilience. Her authenticity left an impression. As one participant from Sydney's Black Dog Institute put it, it's the humanity that bridges divides. Then came the turning point. Catherine wrote a private letter to Prime Minister Albanese, echoing King Charles's earlier environmental appeals. She drew connections between environmental stewardship, mental health, and youth well-being, areas close to her heart. Albanese, a father himself, was struck. He later admitted her words cut through the noise in a way policy briefings never could. This wasn't lobbying. Royals don't lobby. It was soft power at its purest form. Empathy distilled into influence. And so, when Albanese unveiled his groundbreaking cooperation package, he didn't just credit policy advisors. He credited Princess Catherine. The morning after that speech, Buckingham Palace was buzzing. Advisors pored over transcripts and analysts calculated the economic and political impact. But King Charles focused on one line, the Prime Minister's tribute to his daughter-in-law. Sources close to the king say he was visibly moved. Over tea, he reportedly murmured, "She's done more in a letter than legions of envoys." By evening, he had penned a rare personal note to Catherine. Delivered by hand, it read, "In an age of clamor, your voice has sown seeds of unity that bloom across seas. Know that your grace not only strengthens our bonds, but fills this old heart with profound thanks." It was a moment of eternal pride, of recognition, not just of Catherine's resilience, but of the monarchy's evolving role in a modern world. So, what does all this mean? At its core, the cooperation package builds on defense ties, but layers in something new: human-centered initiatives, critical mineral supply chains for green technology, joint AI platforms to fight natural disasters, a £500 million fund for youth mental health programs blending Catherine's Hold Still ethos with Australia's resilience initiatives. This isn't charity, it's strategy. And it shows that in today's world, empathy can be just as powerful as economics. For Catherine, it marks a new chapter. She isn't just a figure of style or ceremony. She's become a quiet architect of goodwill, a bridge between nations, and a symbol of resilience that resonates far beyond palace walls. As whispers of future projects spread, speculation is already building. A 2026 summit in Sydney with Catherine headlining discussions on family futures. Prince William expanding Earthshot collaborations with Australian innovators. Republican sentiment in Australia may not vanish, but polls show Catherine's influence has softened the debate. Nearly 70% of Australians view the royals more favorably after September's events. For King Charles, it's validation that the monarchy can still play a meaningful role in global affairs. For William and Catherine, it's a blueprint for a reign that balances tradition with modern relevance. And for the Commonwealth, it may just be the beginning of a new era, one where the bonds of empathy are as binding as treaties.